Is the number 13 really an unlucky number? Did a person survive 2 fatal incidents in a 24-hour period? Did 2 brothers succumb to very coincidental fates just 1 year apart? Are these stories of death and survival true, or are they designed to rule your imagination? Let's find out in tonight's episode of Fact or Fiction.
The line that divides the factual from the unreal has long since blurred. The tales we once thought fantastical, now implanted as truth. To decipher verity from the imagined, you must break from the ordinary and consider a universe where the outlandish prevails. Can you expand your mind to see beyond our perceived reality? Can you decide what's fact or fiction?
The superstition that 13 is an unlucky number is as old as time, but there still doesn't seem to be any genuine correlation between that number and bad luck. That is until 2013, when a young Canadian man underestimated just how unlucky it can be.
Harry Wilson was 22 when he attended an annual air show at the Canadian National Exhibition. He loved planes since he was a little boy, and the 2013 show was the 5th year in a row that he and his dad had attended. The day, the 13th of September, started as always, and although the weather was calm, there seemed to be a storm brewing on the horizon. Harry and his dad weren't going to let the threat of rain stand in their way, though. So they set up their chairs in prime position, ready for the show to begin at 1 p.m., or 1300 hours, as time is sometimes reckoned. Just before the planes took flight, the weather finally broke and the rain started, followed by thunder and lightning in the distance. Harry and his dad put on their raincoats and stayed out in the rain to watch the show with 1,300 other hardy souls who'd also decided to endure the weather. 13 minutes into the show, at 13:13, there was a huge crack in the air that made the ground shake underneath the crowd's feet, and a flash of lightning that temporarily blinded everyone with its brightness. At first, Harry's dad didn't realize that anything was wrong, but when he looked over to his son, he saw him lying on the ground. Harry was lifeless on the wet grass, and his body bore the telltale burns of a lightning strike. He wasn't breathing, and his dad screamed for help. Luckily, a nurse was in the crowd, and he ran over to administer CPR while the now silent crowd stood in the rain, waiting desperately for the emergency services to arrive. Harry was unconscious the entire trip to the hospital, but doctors managed to bring him back from the brink of death. Harry still loves airplanes, but he's wary of the number 13 now.
Have you ever experienced bad luck around the number 13 or on Friday the 13th? What are the odds that lightning struck exactly at 13:13 into the show? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and be sure to vote by using the on-screen poll as we get ready for our second story for tonight. You may remember the tale of a woman who survived a free fall from an airplane in a previous episode. But what about a free fall in an elevator at 75 stories up? Well, Sandra Peters did just that.
In 1945, the Empire State Building was the tallest structure on Earth, and the world marveled at the incredible feat of engineering that went into creating the megastructure. But in July of that year, a plane crashed into the building, killing 12 people and leaving hundreds more fighting for their lives. One of the survivors was Sandra Louise Peters, a 43-year-old lift operator. She was on duty at the time of the accident and was standing in the open lift on the 75th floor waiting for passengers. The impact threw her violently from the lift, and the resulting fire gave her some severe burns. Firefighters were quickly on the scene, and when they found badly injured Sandra, they knew they needed to get her to the hospital quickly if she had any chance of surviving. In their haste to descend down to the ground floor, they decided to take the elevator, but almost immediately they realized their mistake. Once they'd closed the door and selected their floor, the fire-damaged cables creaked and groaned under the strain of its passengers. A few torturous moments passed as the firemen looked at each other with fear in their eyes before the cables gave way and sent the elevator into a 75-story free fall. The fire crew died, but somehow Sandra survived the fall and went on to recover from her injuries in a hospital. 5 months later, the building was repaired and open for business, and Sandra went back to her post in the very elevator that almost claimed her life.
Could Sandra really have survived being hit by a plane and a 75-story fall? And would she then go back to work at the same place that almost claimed her life? Surely no human is resilient enough to deal with such a physical and mental trauma. As you share your thoughts, let's get to our third and final story for tonight. Could two brothers succumb to similar fates 1 year apart on the same day? Unfortunately for the DeBoer brothers, this was exactly what happened.
In Malé, the capital of the Maldives, nothing very exciting really happens. It's a fairly sleepy city, and life in town is slow-paced and very relaxed. So when Lawrence Dever was knocked off his moped and killed by a taxi driver in June of 1984, it was big news. The 17-year-old's family mourned, and the neighborhood cried alongside them. The collision was an innocent accident, and the taxi driver's passengers vouched for it being a terrible case of bad luck, so he wasn't charged for the death of the young man. 6 months later, Lawrence's younger brother, Cyril, turned 17 and got a moped for his birthday. In June of 1985, he went out to run some errands for his mother and took his usual route from their family home, which took him down the street that his older brother had died on. He was being extra careful when he rounded the corner to pass the spot where the accident happened, but on this particular day, he wasn't careful enough. A car came round the corner at the same time as Cyril, and there was a head-on collision which killed him instantly. Being killed in the same spot as his brother was a terrible coincidence. But what makes it even spookier is that the car was the same taxi that had killed Lawrence. Not only was the driver the same man, but even the passengers were the same.
Two brothers being killed on their mopeds is a coincidence in itself. So is it really possible that they be the same age and the accident happened in the same spot with the same people involved? Maybe this tale seems a little too far-fetched. We really want to know what you think on this one, so be sure to let us know in the comments section as we get ready for the moment we've all been waiting for, the reveal.
Are you ready to find out if you can decipher between fact or fiction? Let's look back at tonight's 3 stories and find out which were born from reality and which were fabrications of the imagination.
First, we're heading north to Toronto and our electrifying tale of Harry Wilson's unlucky run-in with the number 13. Did he really get struck by lightning at exactly 1313 into the show? No, he didn't. This tale is a complete work of fiction and penned by one of our writers. Next, we're going back to New York City and the story of the Empire State Building plane crash. Could one woman survive certain death twice in one day? Actually, yes. Betty Lou Oliver survived this exact accident in 1945 and did, in fact, go back to work only after 5 months later. Finally, we're headed back to the Maldives and to the tragic story of the DeBoer brothers who died 1 year apart in the exact same circumstances. Could such a terrible coincidence actually be true? Sadly, yes. This cruel twist of fate befell Erskine and Neville Eben on the island of Bermuda.
How well did you do in tonight's video? Did you look past the deception of our world and define the off-blurred line that struggles to separate lies from the truth? Let us know in the comment section below. And should you find the urge to test your perceptions again, be sure to subscribe and join us next time when we ask you to decide what's fact or fiction.